Hey y'all! In this video I'm going to introduce a tool that I really can't believe I haven't demonstrated before now, and that is the Distort Selected Objects tool. Now this came to my attention based on a question that I got via email through my website, marklindsaycnc.com, in which a gentleman wanted to curve some text, but then he also wanted to curve a rectangle to match that text. And those of you who have been following me for a while know that a couple of years ago I did 2 videos on applying text to a curve. And I demonstrated 2 methods, but I failed to do the third. So I need to fix that problem right now, because the method applies to more than just text. Now, as you can see by this example, what we're talking about is curving this rectangle as well as curving the text. And it's easier than you may think. So let's start by selecting all of this, deleting it, and we'll start over. Now, let me say that even though I'm using Aspire 10.019 for this demonstration, this works identically in VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro. So, before we can distort anything, we need something to distort. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with a rectangle. Now, I do want to anchor the center of my rectangle on my X0, Y0, right out here in the middle. That position will change, but for right now, that's a good starting point. Also, I'm going to go ahead and accept the width and the height that's already entered in here, just simply because it's as good a measurement as any. And we'll click on the Create button. There's our rectangle. Now I can close that. Now if I'm just going to distort this rectangle, that's as far as I need to go. But if I'm going to distort text inside the rectangle, now's the time to go ahead and put that text in there. That's what I want to do. So let me go ahead and select that rectangle. Then I'm going to come up here to draw text within a vector box. Again, the way this differs from the regular draw text tool is this automatically lays it out and sizes the text to fit and fill up this vector box. So I have my font picked out. I'm going to align it to the center of the rectangle. I'm going to use the normal margins, and I'm going to apply no vertical or horizontal stretch. And I'll type my text up in here. Let's just keep it simple. And we'll click Close. And we have the text based on the center sized to fit within that vector box. Now is when we would introduce the Distort tool. Now, to distort this text, I have a few choices. I'll go ahead and I'll click on the Distort Text icon. And I'll need to select the items that I want to distort, which will be the rectangle and the text. We'll go ahead and select those. And it's telling me here that the selected vectors are valid. My text is already distorted to within this bounding box. I want to distort it following a curve. And we notice here it says above a single curve or between 2 curves. So I don't have a curve to follow here. So let me go ahead and close that, and I'll click off to deselect. What I need to do is I need to create an open vector so that the Distort tool knows what I want it to follow. So let's start with an arc. So let's take an arc, and I want to put it through 3 points. And I want to go to about 4 inches in X, so -4 here in X. That's fine, roughly. Then we'll go over here to +4 in X, roughly. And I'll click. Then I'll come up above the line I just drew. And we'll draw, we'll pull up the center to about right there. And we've created our arc. From here, to distort this rectangle and the text to match the shape of this arc, again, I'll click and drag a box that touches the text and the rectangle. Then I'll hold down Shift and I'll select that arc that I just created. Come up to Distort. Then I'll select above a single curve. And now we see down here, selected vectors are valid and the bottom edge curve is okay. And my Apply button is lit up. So when I click this Apply button, it's going to do three things. It's going to distort the rectangle and the text to follow the curve of this arc. It's also going to move it down to where the bottom edge of the rectangle, the bottom vector here, the rectangle, is on top of this arc. And it's going to resize everything so that the bottom vector of this rectangle is the same length of this arc. Let me go ahead and click Apply and you'll see what I mean. Close. And there is our distorted rectangle and our distorted text. Now, we can see that we're still sitting on top of that open vector, and that could cause us some problems. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select the rectangle and the text, and using my cursor up button, just bump up one press on that cursor up arrow. Now I can come back, select my arc, and delete it just to get rid of it, to clean it up so I don't have a bunch of open vectors in here. Now to place my text and my rectangle back in the center of my material, I'll select them, come over here to the alignment tools, and align to the material. That brings us back into the center. So it's just that easy. Draw a vector that you want the distortion to follow, select the item that you want to distort, then select the vector you want it to follow, then click Apply, and you have curved text and a distorted rectangle. Now, you don't have to use a rectangle. You can use two curves. If we look over here, we can put it between two curves. Let's try that. So we'll get rid of this, delete it. Let's do something simple. Let's draw a polyline starting here at a roughly -4. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to come straight across to roughly +4. And click again. Spacebar to accept that polyline. Now I'm going to use the smart snapping feature. I'm going to draw another line, but I'm going to index it off of this end of this line. So I just hover my cursor over this end for a minute to kind of wake it up. Then I'll pull straight down, and you see that index line that follows it. I'll put it down to about right here. It's good enough. I'll click. Then I'm going to bring the other end over, and I'm going to hover over this end of this line briefly and bring it down. Let's take it down to about a 15-degree angle. Right there. That's about right. And click there. Now I'll spacebar to accept that line. So I have two lines out here that I'm going to use to distort some text. So let's go up here into our standard Draw Text tool. And got my font selected here. I want my anchor point to be on my X0, Y0. Text height doesn't really matter. I'll bring it up to 1 inch just so you can see it a little bit better. I want the text alignment to be centered. And we'll keep it simple again. Okay, and we'll close that. So I've got my text in the middle here, and I want this text, the bottom of the text, I want to follow this line, and the top of the text, I want it to stay straight up here. So, select the text first, then I want to select my bottom vector. Now this is important. The order is important. If I select my top vector first, what it's going to do is flip this text upside down and run it this direction. I want the bottom corner of this H to follow this vector down here. So I'll hold down Shift, select the bottom first, then the top. Come over here to Distort, and I want to select between two curves. Selected vectors are valid, top edge curve is OK, bottom edge curve is OK. Click Apply, and close. And now my text is following those two vectors. So I can come in here, select this top open vector that I no longer need, come down here and select this vector which I no longer need, and that gives our text a sense of perspective. Now, these don't have to be straight lines. I just use a straight line as an example. I can come back up here, grab another polyline, and again we'll start at roughly -4 and move over to +4 roughly. Click and then drag off, hit space bar to accept that line. Now I can come over here and grab an arc, and I'm going to once again use smart snapping to hover over this end, bring it straight down to about right here. Then once again come off of this end, drag it straight down about right there. Then I'm going to come downwards here to the center to define the radius of my arc. Let's bring it down this way a little bit. Let's get some pretty dramatic swoop to this, and click again to set that arc. We'll close it, click off to deselect everything. Now I can come up here to my standard draw text tool, and I'm not going to make any changes down here at all. I'll just click up here and type. You can see it put the text way down here because that's where my cursor was. And I'll click close. And I'll go ahead and move this, I'll go ahead and move this up just to get it off of that arc so you can see how it works. And again, I'll select the text, hold down Shift, select this vector first, this vector second, come over here to Distort, between two curves, I've got valid, OK, OK, click Apply. There we go. Now I can get rid of that vector and that vector. Now it's important to get rid of those open vectors so that they're not accidentally selected when you go to carve and you end up with open vector errors. That is one way to create distorted objects and distort text to follow those objects. Okay, one more demonstration to just kind of have a little bit of fun. Let's go up here and let's create an oval. Draw Ellipse tool, and I'll just go ahead and accept everything that's in here. I want to anchor it in the center of my X0, Y0, the width of 10, height of 4. That's kind of a squashed oval, but that'll work. And let's click Create. Close. Now I immediately want to do a little bit of node editing because I need two open vectors, remember. So we'll select the oval. I'll type the letter N on my keyboard to go into node editing mode. then what I want to do is I want to come over here and place my cursor over this point right here. Right click, and I want to cut vector. We see our keyboard shortcut is C. But since I'm already in the menu, I'll use the menu. Cut vector. We'll notice our start point went from up here to down here. Now I'll come over to this point, hover my cursor over there, and use my keyboard shortcut, type the letter C. Now, the vector's been cut on both sides. I have a start point here, and this vector is selected. If I select this vector, the start point is here, end point is over here. Now I want to come out of node editing, so I'll type the letter N again to come out of node editing. It doesn't matter which one I choose first, but I can't have these vectors too close together. That for all intents and purposes, the ends are sitting one on top of the other. So I'll select this vector, and just using my cursor up arrow, I'll tap once, twice, 3 times. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'll select that vector, and I'm going to tap my cursor down arrow 1, 2, 3 times. Now, that made my oval slightly bigger, but what I'm concerned with right now is the shape, not so much the size, because I can resize later. Now, let's put some text in here. I'll go over here to my Draw Text tool. I'm not going to make any changes here at all. Well, except I'll place it at X0, Y0, just to get it up inside my oval. And we'll type again something simple. And we'll close that. That's good enough. So now to distort this text to match these two shapes, we'll select the text, hold down Shift, and again go for the bottom vector first, the top vector second, come over here to distort. Between two curves, I have valid, OK, OK, click Apply, close, and now I can get rid of my two open vectors. And that gives me some very strange looking text. So you begin to get the idea as to how you can distort vectors, how you can distort text. And this Distort tool is not limited to text. It will distort rectangular shapes, oval shapes, circles. It will distort any vectors you have out here to either follow an open vector from the bottom or between two vectors. And there are other parameters that you can explore. But you begin to see how you can use this to help you kind of add a little bit of personality to some of your designs by, in this case, forcing a little bit of perspective. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up. As usual, this afternoon at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be hosting live Q&A number 24, in which we'll talk about the Distort tool, applying text to a curve, or anything else that I've covered in this video. So that's once again today at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern for live Q&A on the Distort tool right here on my YouTube channel. And I'll put a link to that live Q&A session down in the description box to this video. These weekly live Q&A sessions are a good reason to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. So go ahead and click that red button down there. And while you're doing that, click that notification bell right next to it. Then you'll get a notification the next time I post a video and the next time I go live. So, I hope to see you this afternoon. And as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and y'all take care.